Hi, I'm Mark Scherer. I'm the CEO and founder of Encompass Life and the host of the Encompassing Life podcast. And today we have Dan Sneider on here. And Dan, he has a company that has growth and gratitude therapy. But what he's really here today is to talk about he has a program that he's really looking to promote and talk about. And the program is called the Intimacy Shift. And so, Dan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Looking forward to talking with you today.
Yeah, you too, man. And what got you into doing what you're doing?
Yeah, great question. Everybody's got a story. And yeah, I from an excuse me, from an early age, really connected with wanting to share with people and to feel safe with people. And that started because I went to therapy as a teenager myself. I
Huh.
had grown up in a home that had a lot of dysfunction, a lot of conflict. And what I internalized from that experience was I really had to take care of myself and my own feelings because I couldn't trust the adults around me to keep me safe. And that led to a lot of anger, depression. And when I was an early teenager, I went to therapy begrudgingly. Didn't want to go at first. And when I got there, realized, oh, this is amazing. This is a safe space where I can vent and unload, talk about all the things going on because I had a lot going on inside my brain and my body that didn't have a good place to go before.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, in that experience, I had so much respect for my therapist and for the process that it set me on the path. And as I got older and like most people, right, learn through making mistakes, through trial and error. Uh, I really wanted to continue working with people and learn from them, learn about myself, and that vehicle of being a therapist and getting to know people, getting to know myself has really been a terrific journey for me as I've been figuring things out for myself along the way.
Hmm. So, what age were when you started therapy?
That's a great question. How old was I exactly? I was in middle school, sixth
So,
or seventh grade, so around 13. Yeah, 12, 13.
yeah, that's going through some tough times with a stable household.
That's true too.
Yeah.
Yeah. hmm
So, and where were you? You were raised. Where were you raised?
I grew up in the Chicago area, suburbs outside of Chicago,
Hmm.
in suburbia. And yeah, very physically safe household. I wasn't being physically hurt in any kind of way and had all my material needs met. But emotionally, really an unsafe place. My mom was very, very loving, kind, but not able to protect me or my sister for, how my dad would come home. He would come home either really hot, angry, or really cold, distant, and withdrawn. And so we didn't know what to expect. And so living on edge, more days than not sure what was going to happen. And yeah, not blaming that, but it's where I come from, and
Hmm.
certainly at that age, like that was what I knew. That was the environment that I was in. And
Gotcha.
so I've done yeah, a lot of work over the years to learn from that experience and to make sense of, why I am the way that I am so that I can overcome and I can grow as a person and develop relationships that are healthy and safe in my adult life.
Hmm. Well, see, did they have substance issues or just reactive to life?
Yeah. So my early memories there were, he would come home from work, he would pour himself a drink, and he wouldn't have more than a couple drinks, but when he would come home, he would pour himself a drink.
Yeah.
And so we can, I don't want to put a label on that necessarily, but there was things going on for him that's what he felt he needed to do when he
Right.
first came in the house, and that's what we all saw.
Right. And the alcohol has a cumulative effect on the person. So,
hmm
yeah. Gotcha. So, and did you go straight into therapy as you um, As you got out of school, did you start taking classes, or what did you? How
Yeah,
did you?
it's interesting looking back on it now, because now I'm turning 40 this year. So uh, being a 24, 25-year old, I went straight to grad school after college, and yeah, I was working with families, working with kids as a social worker. That's my education. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And so yeah, fresh out of school, early mid 20s, you start working with people right away, and you learn so much doing that, but also my life experience at the time was limited, right? Because I was just in my 20s. So, yeah, it's, about 15 years later now. I've seen and lived and studied more since then. But yeah, I went straight into it out of school and worked with, like I said, families and with teenagers. Mostly, I was a school social worker and a residential treatment counselor. And
Mm,
so worked in treatment centers for uh, teenagers that had really severe mental health needs and couldn't live at home anymore. And so, yeah, I had really wonderful experiences learning all about different kinds of families, different kinds of life situations, and
mm.
learning about myself during the process.
Awesome, interesting. So you're. Let's talk about your program you have coming out now,
Hmm.
the intimacy shift. And
Hmm.
can you tell me a little bit about the foundation of that, the bones of it, and how it works?
Yeah, so it's a 12-week program and it's all online. So once a week during that 12 weeks, it's an hour with me learning skills, practicing skills, and it's primarily designed for either one person in a relationship or if both people are there at the same time together, even better. And I called it the intimacy shift because both in my personal life and in just about all the people that come to find me for help and support have experienced a shift in their relationship where either their emotional intimacy, trust, closeness, and connection has been frayed or broken or damaged. They're feeling more like a roommate in the relationship than a best friend or a lover, or the physical intimacy has shifted because over time, physical intimacy changes all on its own. But sometimes when couples have kids or get older, or there's been an infidelity or some other kind of major rift, physical intimacy and sex changes and shifts. So in this 12-week program, what I'm really focused on is finding out that pattern the couple has gotten into, identifying it, naming it, being able to talk about it in healthy ways instead of blaming, criticizing, or kind of like a me versus you dynamic. And so, really giving the skills to people to be able to talk about it and then setting objectives so that during the 12 weeks, we can see real change and progress. We don't just want to keep talking about the problem. We really want to address it and change it for the better over those 3 months.
Gotcha. I remember when I was going through a divorce years ago, my goal was to get the therapist on my side,
Mm,
and hers
hmm
was the same. So
mm.
if I could get the therapist on my side, I felt like I had won half the battle, you know. And but that's what we would go in there and try to play the victim big enough to get the therapist on our side.
I
What a
appreciate that honesty. Yeah, thank you for saying that, Mark. It's funny. I had opposite issue almost where, and I'm divorced myself and in a wonderfully healthy relationship right now, using kind of all the tools I've learned along the way. But when I was married and we did go to counseling, there were a few times where the therapist agreed, different therapists agreed with me and took my side. And that didn't go well because my partner did not like that happened, and like, well, and now we got to find a new therapist, and that therapist is wrong. And I didn't want to create more conflict. Inside, I'm happy that the therapist agreed with me, but it didn't help me in the relationship to be right in that sense. So I do
uh,
know and say to people, you can either be right or you can be in relationship.
Yeah.
That's been my experience.
Yeah. Same here. But it sure felt good to go. Gotcha.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Told you. It's all your fault. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so what does it look like for people coming into your 12 step? Like, what are some of the? Can you don't give away your special sauce, but can you give away some of the some of the pieces to it, or
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have a lot of training in emotionally focused therapy, which is a highly researched, highly regarded framework for couples therapy. And so I bring a lot of that into the sessions. And what we want to do is most couples have a pattern, right? There's some kind of surface level issue that gets triggered. And there's a pattern that when I'm upset or stressed, I react in a certain kind of way. My partner reacts in a certain kind of way. And we just repeat that over and over. And we get stuck. And so in this framework, we want to identify that pattern and we want to name it. And just like you were saying, of like, in those sessions, you wanted to be right or you wanted to get the therapist on your side. We want to create a team dynamic instead of that, I want to be right or I want to win the argument. We want to put the two people on the same side against the problem. So this pattern, right, that's the problem. We want to get out of that problem, that pattern. And so I'm going to, after identifying what that pattern is, teach skills for how to break out of that. And in a relationship where there are two people, both people could always do something differently. So, yes, that person, the thing that they said you know, was hurtful, was mean, we can call that out. And the other person, they can also do something differently too. So we want to look at both sides and how we together can help each other to break free from that pattern. Because again, like it's us versus that pattern of conflict. And so there are a number of tools and skills that we go over and teach. A lot around the way that we communicate with each other and the way that we feel safe together.
gotcha. So do you use things like different communications techniques like mirroring or any of that type of
Mhm.
things? All those things and greater, yeah. Um,
Yeah, yeah, we'll practice. Yeah, mirroring or reflection.
yeah,
Exactly. That's something over and over again in my
yeah,
sessions. People struggle with, and it's a foundational skill, but it does take practice.
yeah,
Everybody at first wants to summarize the other person and add in what they think the other person meant. And we've got, no, we're not adding in what we think they meant. Let's just repeat back what they said. Let's make sure that we heard what they said. Show that we're listening first. And so going back to that basic skill of active listening. So yeah,
yeah.
mirroring, reflecting, really validating the other person. I'll speak for myself for sure. I love to be validated. If I don't feel like the other person understands where I'm coming from, I'm going to have a hard time moving forward in the
Mm,
conversation. I know that about myself, and most people need that too. Like if we just skip over understanding the other person's viewpoint and then you tell me yours, we're at odds. We're not on
yeah.
the same side there.
Taking my toys, I'm going home, going to the movies or something. Find ways to avoid. So how long have you had your program going now?
Yeah, so the program is new. This year is the first year I've been doing this. So I've been working as a private practice therapist for 7 or 8 years now, and I've been licensed for 13 or 14 years. But this specific program is new because I've found that for better or for worse, a lot of people are approaching therapy as, almost like a kind of never-ending resource, which can be helpful. But my background in sports and athletics, I like to work towards a goal. I want us to identify where we are, where we're heading, and to be able to track our progress along the way. And so I designed this program with 12 weeks because the techniques that I teach, the way that they are researched, they can be learned and they can be implemented in that amount of time. And I want couples also to approach this work as not something we can be complacent about. We're just showing up week to week, kind of working on things, kind of not. I want a targeted framework so that we can say at the beginning where we were, and then at the end of the 12 weeks, we can see all the progress and change. And I find that been very motivational for people and very helpful to have that time limited experience.
Gotcha. What I've discovered too is most people, like couples, will say they want the same things. We want to be playful. We want to whatever. We don't want to fight, or but they'll say that they'll say very similar things. But then I'll ask them like, what is it? What does that look like for you?
Mhm.
And none of them none of them can describe it. They have some esoterical, airy fairy idea of in their head, but they can't even describe what that is in the 3D world. So like, how are you ever gonna get it if you don't even know what it looks like? It's amazing how wrapped up people get in definitions instead of um, the distinctions of observable actions. You know, so
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, being able to like clearly define and write down, specifically what it is that you're wanting or what the issue is goes a long way towards addressing it. If you
well,
don't know exactly what it is, you're not going to be able to get there.
mm-mm, sure not. So you've been doing this for about a year. Do you have any um, like really great success stories you could share?
Yeah, yeah. No,
Awesome. There comes a good part.
Uh, yeah, yeah, of course. Well, and just humans in general, we're story-based creatures, so we all connect through stories.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have a couple stories I like to share. One in particular I've been sharing recently. So there's a couple that started working with me, and they hadn't been physically intimate, had sex in over a year, and not for lack of love. Really, really close couple, young kids, which of course changes the dynamic in the relationship and the intimacy, but highly emotionally intelligent and clearly wanting and going to stay together. But that aspect of their relationship had been a big challenge. And so, that kind of commitment and love is such a strong foundation to work with. And so in our program, we identified some goals for them and not just like, we're going to have sex today and then everything's fine and fixed, right? Like there were other things that we needed to do to work on. And for them, it was a lot around communication, from one person to the other, being able to express what they needed or wanted that didn't have anything to do with physical intimacy and sex, but just being able to express their needs. You mentioned people pleasing earlier, and it is a common expression these days, but in this couple, one person was constantly wanting to help the other person, to do things for the kids, but not in tune what they wanted or needed. And so we had to help that person find their voice a little bit more to be able to express what they wanted or needed. And then we connected that to their physical intimacy, their sex. We did a number of sensate focus activities. And so sensate focus is it's just sensations, right? You're focusing on your sensations. And so we take sex off the table for a short amount of time and have the couple practice just physical touch and closeness without that pressure of sex. For this couple and for many that haven't had sex in a long time, there gets to be so much pressure that then, nothing happens. So with this couple, we worked on those communication skills, did some practice around touch and playfulness around touch, and pretty soon, they both started expressing less pressure and more desire and interest in getting physical intimacy back into their relationship. And then they were able to start having sex again. And they said it was better than it had been before, more excited about it, feeling less in their heads, more in their bodies. And that was really exciting for that couple because again, they were very in love, very committed to each other, but needed help in that particular area.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one story I like to share. And then another story that um, is pretty common and still, very meaningful for this particular couple, where um, lots of conflict, lots of name calling, criticism, and resentment on both sides. And so, different sort of issue there, where this particular couple was really contemplating divorce, ending the relationship, because why are we staying together if we don't like each other, right? They say that they don't like me. There are times where I don't like them. And so they had this narrative that we don't like each other and we're headed towards separation. It seemed inevitable
Mm-hmm.
and almost like a checkbox of like we're coming to counseling, we're going to go through this program, but we're pretty skeptical that it's
Yeah.
going
The, and
to.
those become the best cheerleaders.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, it's a common story because people, another thing is people wait too long before they seek out help and support. So you don't have to wait until things are that dire,
Mm-hmm.
but often people think that it will get better or for different reasons don't seek out help or support. But this particular couple, like I said, a lot of resentment built up.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that couple, um, really what we had to do is we had to go back to the beginning. And so I had them, as part of setting their goals and objectives, I had for them, this is from John and Julie Gottman's work. There's a 5-to-1 ratio in relationships of you want to have a really positive regard for the other person,
Mm-hmm.
at least 5-to-1 for any
Mm-hmm.
kind of negative or critical feelings you have.
Right.
And so what we did with them is one of their objectives was you have to find, notice, and tell the other person at least 5 positive things every single day.
Mm-hmm.
As we've got to find a way to counterbalance all this negative resentment that had built up. And so they rolled their eyes. They didn't like that idea at first. How am I going to find 5 things, about this other person that I like every single day? But if we try hard enough, we can absolutely find those things, at
Mm-hmm.
least 5. And so it took a few weeks for them to really get in the habit. But like anything else, and positive psychology, the more we notice the good things that someone's doing well, the more we start to see.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that we tell the other person how much we appreciate and notice the things they're doing, guess what? The more they start doing those things. And so over the course of a few weeks, they started feeling and saying less critical and negative things to each other. They started wanting to spend more time together. And then we started planning some intentional date night activities, times where they could spend together where they weren't fighting or arguing, but instead they could enjoy time together, which they weren't doing before. And yeah, a success story, right? Like by the end of that 12 weeks, we had really flipped how much anger and resentment there was. It didn't all disappear, but now they had all these
So,
positive experiences and practice noticing all the good things the other person was doing that they were able to turn around their view on the relationship.
that's cool. I like how you take it into the minute detail of what's going on, and work with it from that side, date nights and all the things you're doing. Yeah, no, I did a class in Houston a number of years ago. Got a buddy here, just um, and I had I had maybe 30 or 40 people in the class. Had everyone go around the room and just tell me 3 things that you don't like. Oh my gosh, dude. People couldn't wait to talk. And no one wanted to stop at 3. And you let them go a few over, then they'll get to the other side of the room. They go, somebody went from the other side of the room. They go, I got a bunch of more I want to share. It's like, golly. And then about an hour later, go, tell me what you love. I could have dropped a pin in the room. No one opened their mouth. It's like we have this condition where everybody's looking at what we can complain about with life, and we take, people get pissed and they take a snapshot of their partner with all the things that pisses them off, and then they take another one and another one and another one. Within a short period of time, that's all they can see in their partner. Sucks, and they sit down. They compete on complaining with their friends. You think your husband's bad? Let me tell you about mine. You think your
Mm.
wife's bad? Let me tell you about how mine operates. And they try to one up each other on complaining. What a way to live life. Sucks.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
cool. So cool. You're addressing that, man. Really cool. So Dan, how to and you do most of your stuff online, even the 12-week program.
Yeah, everything's online. You can learn more about me and connect with me on intimacyshift.com. And if you leave your email there, you right away get a 12-page PDF with my 6 steps to having healthier conversations about intimacy with your partner. And so you get a tool right away, and then you can learn about the program. But yeah, entirely online. My private practice therapy side of my business, you can also learn more about it there. That's available if someone is living in Illinois, Colorado, Florida, or North Carolina. Those are the 4 places that I've lived and I'm actively licensed. But the 12-week intimacy shift program, that's available to anybody, anywhere.
Gotcha. So when you have a license, it's not good for nationwide. It's you license with the state. Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
And do you ever do retreats? Or are you planning on doing retreats in the future? Or
I don't do retreats at the moment, mostly because I have 2 young kids. And
oh,
so
gotcha,
planning that time away doesn't quite work. But yeah, no. So on weekends, I'm usually, running around town at playgrounds and sporting events and doing stuff with the kiddos. So no
awesome,
retreats. Yep.
gotcha, awesome,
Mhm.
Dan. Well, I do have one question for you before you leave the show, and this is the question I ask everyone. What do you love about life?
Ooh, okay. So I'm gonna try to give a short answer because there are many things that I love about life. The number one thing that comes to mind is uh, experiences with people that I love. So I'm really big on spending active time with somebody. Now I can sit in a room and have a close and connected conversation, but my favorite thing is to be out in the world, taking a walk out in nature, at a concert, dancing, experiences with people.
Gotcha, cool, Dan. Well, thank you for being on the show, and I look forward to hearing more about what you're doing, and maybe we'll just stay in touch and see see how your life's progressing, sir.
I'd love that, Mark. Thank you.
You're welcome. Blessings.